To the Canadian High Commissioner, Mr. Christopher Thornley, and other Mustafa Ismail, the keynote speaker, development partners, His Royal Highness. I am pleased to be here today at this important and historic launch of the campaign to end child marriage in Nigeria and the strategy document 2016 to 2020. We're here this morning as part of an ever-growing movement in many countries in Africa that are reviewing and renewing their strategies for tackling child marriage. And there's a need and urgency at this very crucial time to deal with this issue. The case against child marriage is clear and it is compelling. And I think that case has been so well made today, not just by many of the speakers, but also by some of the distinguished, honorable members of the Children's Parliament. But I think it bears making again. First, there is evidence that there is a positive correlation between child marriage and poverty. West and Central Africa have the highest prevalence of child marriage in the world. 2 out of every 5 girls are married off before their 18th birthdays. I think it's just South Asia that compares in terms of statistics. Not surprisingly, these 2 regions are the poorest on earth. Secondly, there is unassailable proof in the vast majority of cases that early marriage affects the physical, mental, and psychological health of child brides. Many end up with VVF, as we've heard, and other ailments. Many of these girls are unable to live normal, fulfilled lives after their youth have been taken from them forcefully. Thirdly, the evidence shows that there is positive correlation between illiteracy and the promotion of child marriage. States with the largest numbers of early marriages also have the lowest literacy levels. Again, there's a positive correlation between illiteracy and poverty and poor health. States with the lowest levels of literacy are also the poorest in most social and economic indices and have the poorest health indices. Nations today are rich and successful, and as rich and successful as the literacy of their citizens, as the literacy of those who live within their borders. Nigeria has made fairly positive advances in the struggle to end child marriage. The Child Rights Act is one of the most progressive pieces of legislation on the subject in Africa. Being a federal legislation on a subject which states have legislative competence, the states must either pass similar legislation or versions of their own. So far, 24 states have done so. But Nigeria also, along with other African states, sometime in 2014, joined the campaign to end child marriage across Africa. That campaign has succeeded very largely, and this initiative is part of that campaign. However, laws and institutions are only as effective as societal beliefs and customs allow. Good laws or right rules, especially on societal matters, largely depend on societal consensus or buy-in. Otherwise, the laws will not be enforced or will only be half-heartedly enforced. The battle is now for the minds of men and women who, for one reason or the other, still believe that child marriage is right. Unfortunately, their views cannot be ignored or waved aside. They must be understood and rebutted by the overwhelming case for the healthy, happy, and prosperous future of girls and of the nation that suffers the loss of their talents and skills. We must persuade by constant advocacy, moral suasion. We must consistently make the case until the last vestiges of this practice dies. As part of this campaign, I'm convinced that there is the need for government to take concrete steps to ensure that our policies and practices support the education of girls. We should develop and implement policies that support pregnant and married girls who want to continue their education, and remove unnecessary admission protocols to ensure true realization of free and compulsory education. It's very heartwarming to note that some states have already established special schools and centers for continuing education for women and girls, especially those who have had their educational pursuits interrupted. This is commendable, and I urge the states that are yet to make provisions for girls who have dropped out of school to re-enter and be reintegrated in the educational system to consider doing so. It's never too late to continue education. Regardless of the reasons why girls are not in school, it's our responsibility as leaders to ensure that opportunities are available for them to have a restart. All obstacles in the path of enrollment, retention, completion, and transition for girls in education must be removed. This is the only way we can begin to right the wrongs that have been done to these forgotten girls and women. And this is the surest way of unleashing their abundant potentials and enable them overcome challenges that have made and enable them to make meaningful contributions to their immediate families and to the development of our nation. We must commend the Honorable Minister for Women Affairs, Senator Aisha Al-Hassan, otherwise known as Mama Taraba, and her team at the Ministry of Women Affairs for the creativity, commitment, and resourcefulness that they brought to bear on this excellent initiative. I've been fortunate to work with her on several other issues, especially those concerning women. Microcredit loan for women, which she is very much a part of, the Jari Mata scheme, as well as the Jeep scheme, where she's put the same, she's brought the same drive, the same enthusiasm, and the same commitment. And I really want to commend you for the great work that you are doing. Thank you very much. I hope that my presence here today underscores the fact that as far as the federal government is concerned, the campaign is not just for the Ministry of Women Affairs alone. It's a task for every department of government. Our position is clear: no child marriage. Every nation is endowed by God with resources and talents, and the human capital it needs for that society to live in abundance, peace, and prosperity. The talent he gives a nation includes men and women. In some woman somewhere, God has probably planted a cure for sickle cell anemia or fibroids, ailments that mainly affect black people. If God had planned that women should only be capable of producing children, he would not have bothered to give them the intelligence, of course, to be scientists, law professors, medical experts, and technology innovators. We as human beings must not bury the talents that God has already provided. Just listening to many of the young girls in the parliament here, in the children's parliament, must tell you what a tragedy it will be if these young women have their education subverted by some early marriage. And as they kept saying, marriage to old men, marriage to old men, marriage to old men. I'm sure you heard the young man who said that if old men continue to marry these young girls, who will be left for the young men to marry? And I must say, I concur fully with you. It is now my special pleasure and privilege to launch the campaign to end child marriage in Nigeria, along with the strategy document 2016 to 2020. I'll be working over there to do that. I think I'll be joined by the Honourable Minister.
The Honourable Minister,